Sure you be tired of the Babylon tunes, we gon' knock them aside like Van Damme. You better check the score, we on the winning side and you say no man can. For many weapon against its children, the lights up the world like a lantern.
Yeah. Laka Muchalo, Laka Muchalo, Laka. Laka Muchalo. Good evening. Good evening. How are you today? How are you? Join in. So the moment that you see this video, kindly like and share it to your friends. I have some amazing news to share with you today. When you just see this video, make sure that you share it to your friends, to your families, and to your enemies too, because they might also get something valuable from what I'm about to share today. But as we start, how are you today? How was your day? And once you just click on this video, let us know where you are joining us from. Let me know where you are joining me from. Once you just start this video, let me know where you are joining me from, so that we can know where you are joining us from. Okay, I hope you had an amazing day as much as I did. Yeah, today it was an amazing day. Yeah, it was very cold compared to other days, and actually it gave me some thoughts. Actually, I learned from everything, both the bad, the good, the small, and the big. So today, when I was just gallivanting and doing my errands, I noticed something, because when it was hot, a lot of people were complaining, it's hot. So now that it was cold, to my surprise, there were other people who were actually complaining that it's too cold. And the time it was raining, there were other people who were actually complaining that it's too rainy. It's raining a lot, it's disturbing programs. And actually, I just reminded myself, and I said that I was going to tell my Facebook friends about this. If you are a person, here's how you know that you are addicted to negativity. If you are a person who complains that it's too hot when it's hot, okay, or it's too sunny when it is sunny, and then when it becomes cold, in winter, you are the person again who is complaining about the weather at that time. And then when it is windy, sometime in August and July, somewhere there, when it is windy, you complain again that it is windy. And when it starts raining, just like it has started now in Zambia, you are the one in the forefront to complain that it is rainy. Just know that you are a person who is addicted to negativity. But guess what? You are highly privileged, because you have the doctor of positivity, Koamvulule Simon, the author of Radiate Positivity, and soon to be the author of Positivity in Action. I'm so passionate about positivity because I've seen it change many lives. And trust me, there's nothing that you can ever do in the world without being positive. No matter how good or bad it is, if it's going to succeed, you need to have, this positive energy about everything that you are doing. Like Pompey said, when I got to meet him, he told me that I have an aura of positivity, and I had to check for the meaning once I reached home, and I came to discover that it just means an energy, an energy or a vibe, So if anything that you are doing is ever going to progress or to succeed, you need to have an aura of positivity, like Pompey mentioned. Now, I don't intend to keep you long today as you'll be watching this video. I just want to make mention that as we are speaking right now, you see, we only have about 12 days to go to the grand book launch. Now, you might be asking yourself that what is the grand book launch? The grand book launch is just a book launch that is going to be taking place. It's on this particular new book that I have written, with a new perspective, a fresh perspective, a practical, pragmatical book that is going to bring the action to positivity. You see, a lot of books that I've read about positivity, usually they talk about how to develop a positive mindset. You've got to believe in yourself, you've got to feed your mind with positivity and all those nice things. But in my new book called Positivity in Action, the only thing that I tried to do, which is going to be a competitive advantage of this book, is that it is only focused on how you can live a lifestyle of positivity, how you can live a life of positivity. What do you need to do on a daily basis? What are the action steps? So you find that even the stories that I was telling in the book are practical, even the anecdotes that I was putting, even the way the work is flowing, it is practical. And it has 3 steps. I hope they won't kill me if I review this, because we wanted to keep this anonymous as possible. But it has 3 parts, okay? It's a 3-part book. It has 18 chapters, but it has 3 parts. And the first part is dealing with positive thinking. So the first thing that I addressed was the aspects that have to do with positive thinking. How do you think positive? How do you cultivate thoughts that are positive? As scientists tell us that we think about 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts each and every day, and 90% of those thoughts are negative. So how do you intentionally develop positive thoughts in life? That's the first thing that we talked about in this particular book. Part 1, about 6 chapters are just dealing with positive thinking. And then the second part, part 2, part 2 has to do with a positive mindset. Now, there's a difference between positive thinking and a positive mindset. You see, when we talk about a positive mindset, it means that it is a habit that you have built now, okay? It means that positivity has now become a habit. So, how do you sustain a habit of positivity? You are a person who works at a certain place where it is toxic, it's all negative. How do you cultivate a positive mindset? That's the second part that I actually address in Positivity in Action. So it also has some chapters, I think there are 4 or 5 chapters that are addressing a positive mindset. You see, scientists tell us that it takes about 18 to 245 days to develop a new habit. And, it's a fact that when you are developing a bad habit, it doesn't take long. But for you to develop a good habit, it takes some time. So those are the 18 to 254 days. If you have listened to me properly, you can tell that actually it is a scientifically based book. All the thoughts that are in it, they are fun, they are hilarious, they are wonderful, whereby you'll be feeling the author's voice in the book. But one thing that I've made sure is to bring the science to the fun. Okay? And how is it fun? There are illustrations in the book. There are also some drawings in the book, so that as you are reading, you are relating with what you are reading to the picture that you are going to see. So those are some of the things, the unique things that I made sure I did. I didn't try to do this, I did it. There are pictures, there are illustrations, there are also anecdotes in it that you'll be able to relate with the book as you read it. So that's the second part. So we said the first part is dealing with positive thinking. How do you think positive? How do you cultivate positive thoughts in your daily life? Then the second part, which is part 2, is dealing with a positive mindset. And when we talk about a positive mindset, we are talking about the mind being conditioned as a positive place, okay? Cultivating a positive environment in your mind. That's the second thing that we are going to address. So how do you sustain a positive mindset? How do you create a positive mindset? How do you nourish, how do you keep this particular attitude to keep on in your life? That's the second part. And the third part now, that is my favorite part. Okay? That is my favorite part. The third part is called positive living. So the first part, positive thinking. The second part, positive mindset. The third part, positive living. Now, this one is the one which is now bringing the practice on the positive thoughts and the positive mindset. This is like the stem of the book. If Positivity in Action book was a human being, we would say that this is now the heart of the book, positive living. As you are dealing with daily challenges, how do you just sustain this particular positive attitude? Not just a positive attitude, but how do you sustain a positive lifestyle each and every day? This is the book that is going to teach you about that. I can assure you, and I can bet on this one, and I can tell you that go and read books out there. Go and read all these books that address the aspect of positivity. I can assure you that you will rarely find a book that addresses how to live a positive lifestyle. Now, this reminds me, when most of the times when you hear people talk about positivity, usually it has to do with, ignoring the problems that are around you and just focusing on the good things that are happening around you, being all positive, all optimistic, acting as if there are no problems in life and everything like that. But in this particular book, we deal with reality. I believe that there is no positivity without reality, because reality is positivity, and you cannot separate these two. The reason why we talk about positivity is because there is a reality out there that good things are going to happen to you and bad things will also happen to you. So now this book addresses these two aspects. One of my favorite chapters is a chapter called Philosophy of Problems. This is where now I bring in the aspect of the challenges that we face in our daily life. We all go through tumultuous situations that make us feel as if we want to give up, situations that make us to become depressed, situations that have led a lot of people to actually commit suicide and do all those things that harm their health, situations that make us maybe even resort to drug abuse and also resort to alcohol abuse. So now, I discussed the fact that, when we talk about the philosophy of problems, we are all going to pass through problems. And if we are going to live a happy, a fulfilling, and a successful life, we need to have a good, we need to have a good philosophy of problems. Okay? So maybe philosophy is a big word. When we just talk about philosophy, we are talking about we need to have a good understanding of problems. All right, let me break it down again. So I discussed something that when you are watching a movie, there's something that you are going to understand. Whether you talk about Fast and Furious 10, whether you talk about which movie can I pick out? These movies that deal with action. You see, there's one thing that happens. There's one thing that happens the people that are held as starlings or the stars of the movie, you find that there are people who fight challenges, who fight problems each and every day. Those are the ones that are held in high regard. Or when I was growing up, there was a cartoon that we used to watch. It was called Ben 10. Okay, Ben 10. I think let me indulge myself with Ben 10. So you find that in Ben 10, Ben 10 was a comic movie, or it was a cartoon rather. And there was this kid who had some powers, you know, and it's in the circles of Batman, you know, these superhero movies. So Ben 10 was a superhero. And what he was doing is that he had a watch, okay, kind of like this one. No, but it was, you know, yeah, he had a watch. So this particular watch had particular, you know, superpowers that he was accumulating whenever he pressed on the watch. He could change and become into, he could turn into this gigantic person who would fight, you know, villains who were coming to actually attack Mother Earth. And I actually got something from that, because when you talk about an action movie, it is always surrounded with problems. And you find that even the starring, the star of that particular movie, is the person who is even beaten at first. You know, this person is beaten. Maybe they even start out in the movie, they are very weak, they are being bullied, you know, like Karate Kid. You know, Karate Kid, we find, is it Jaden Smith? He was being beaten, he didn't know how to fight. But you see, because he was the starring of the movie, at the end of it all, despite facing someone who was stronger than him, he was able to conquer that particular villain, or that particular villain in simpler words. And I got that lesson that even in life, you see, there are times that we are faced with big challenges that we cannot be able to overcome. And the thing is that, you see, as long as you are studying, the fact is that you can never lose. You can be beaten, you can be trampled upon, you can feel like giving up, you can feel like, you know, the world is falling on you. But once you know that you are the star of your life, then you know that you are the undefeated. You know that there is no problem that can be so large to cut you off such that you cannot do anything. As a believer, there is one thing that I believe in, that every challenge that I face, and I face a lot of challenges in my life, every challenge that I face, it first passes through the hands of God, and He weighs it. Can my child be able to handle this particular problem? So when I face a challenge, it means that God has seen it. He has seen that I am capable of handling that particular challenge. So it means that if He knows that I'm capable of handling that particular challenge, it means that I have already triumphed even before coming out of that particular situation. It's the same with you. Whatever challenge you are facing, you should know that a challenge does not come to you without passing through the hands of God. And it is weighed. It is weighed, and He makes sure that it's a challenge that you can overcome. He says that you'll never be tempted beyond your strength to overcome. And even though that particular challenge is bigger than you, He's still there to lead you through that particular problem. So that is the philosophy of a challenge. The reason why a lot of people give up when they face a lot of challenges, it's very simple. It's about the perspective that they have when they are going through a challenge. When you know that as long as you are still alive, then you can triumph. Even though you face the biggest challenge in this earth, you are going to know that you are going to overcome no matter what. Because greater is He that is in you than he who is in the world. the God of the mountain and the God of the valley. And they say that we are more than conquerors through Christ who loved us. So whatever challenge that you face, you know that you have someone who is greater than anything on earth who is fighting on your behalf. And I was reading a book today by, what's his name, Dale Carnegie. And he said that there were two people who were in a prison cell. And they both looked outside through the bars. One looked at the mud and another one looked at the stars. Now, you understand that these particular people, they are both in the cells. They are both in the cells and their freedom has been snatched from them. But when they looked through the bars of that cell, one of them looked at the mud. Another one looked at the stars. Where are you looking at? In that challenge which you are in, where is your sight? Where is your eye? Where are your eyes focusing? Because if you can't see hope, it is very difficult for you to come out of your situation. If all you see is hell when you are going through tough times, then your journey becomes like hell. That's why I want to encourage you this particular evening that threaten it back. Today I overheard one of my colleagues who is he's an expert in history. And you know, he just brought up this story about Philip II and the king of the Medes and the Persians. So these were two kingdoms which were against each other. You see, they were kingdoms which were rivals. They were enemies. And there was this time that they pushed each other so hard such that they were ready to go into battle. Actually, it was Philip II who was actually very ready. Philip II is the father to Alexander the Great, the one who is acclaimed to have conquered all the world, okay? So now the father who was Philip II, he was so outraged such that he sat down and he wrote this particular letter to the king of the Medes and the Persians. And listen to what he said. In that letter, it was actually a very long letter, and he was just saying that when I come there, you so-called king of the Medes and the Persians, firstly, I am going to burn all your kingdom. I am going to burn all your crops, and I'm going to kill all your soldiers. I'm going to destroy everything that you have ever worked for. He insulted him in all the ways. You know, the way kingdoms were fighting a long time ago. They were fighting mentally before they fight the physical battle. So they tried all the ways to make sure that you neutralize your enemy before you face them physically. And how were they doing that? They were sending letters to those kingdoms, or they would stand somewhere when they face each other in battle. There would just be someone who is employed or who was trained to speak words that are going to demoralize the other army. And that tells you the power of words. If armies were able to do that, and if you are able to demoralize the other soldiers, you find that it was very easy to win, because you would have infected them with the spirit of negativity. So King Philip II, who was the king of is it Medo-Persia, something like that, Macedonia. Yeah, Macedonia. He was the king of Macedonia. Here's what he did. After writing this letter, he folded it and he gave this particular person to take it. And when it reached the hands of the king of the Medes and the Persians, he read it very well and very slowly. And he did something so interesting. After getting scared, you know, there's that rage which comes in your heart when you just receive all these insults. Imagine your enemy sends you a message of insulting you. Okay? So this is what he did. After reading that particular letter, a very long letter, he also got a very big piece of paper, something like an A4, plain paper, and he only wrote one word, a very big word actually. Those times they never had pens, so he got a feather, he dipped it in the ink, and he only wrote a word which has 2 letters. He only wrote if, and folded it and sent it to the king, to Philip II, who was the father of Alexander the Great. And when he received this letter, you know how anxious you become when you sent a message to your enemy, you insulted them in all the ways, and now you are waiting for a feedback from them. So this guy was actually anxious to see this particular letter. And when he got it, when he got this particular letter, the only thing that he saw on that particular big piece of paper was if. There was no one to tell him that this if means that all those things that you were saying, that you are going to burn my kingdom, you are going to burn my crops, you are going to kill my soldiers, you are going to burn everything that I've ever worked for, only applied if you are going to win. And this, you know, when I heard this particular story, it gave me, it gave me courage. I said, if you are going through any challenge, make sure that you threaten it back. Do you know what King Philip II did? He never went to battle against this king of the Medes and the Persians. Why? Because he was demoralized, he was scared. Why would this person just write if? Because he knows that he is more than capable to face me and to conquer my kingdom. Philip II was actually demoralized and he never went in battle. Now here's the lesson. Here's the lesson that I want you to learn from this. Sometimes we are defeated by the challenges that we go through because we don't take time to threaten the challenge back. So I want you to be a person who is going to challenge that challenge back. When you are threatened by those particular problems, threaten them back. When they tell you that you are now doomed, there's nowhere where you are going, tell them that only if you can be able to conquer me, and you will see how they will run away from you. If there's a person who is pulling you down, they are telling you that you are a nobody, there's nowhere where you are going to go. You were born in a poor family, you can't do anything, you are not good enough. Just tell them that's if you are going to manage to conquer what God has put in me. Threaten that challenge back. Whatever is threatening you, threaten it back. If it is poverty that is threatening you, threaten it back. Go to nice places and threaten that particular poverty in you. You see, there's this book called The Mountain Is You. I actually found it in the book club that I recently joined. Okay, I can see Catch Zambia saying amazing, beautiful, excellent, amazing. I can see Princess Mono saying wonderful. I can see Lucky Sinazongwe saying hi Lucky, how are you? Lucky, I hope you are amazing. I hope you are awesome. I hope you are better than good. Okay, so there's this book called The Mountain Is You. And it talks about, self-sabotage. And this particular book was saying, that book is powerful. It was saying that we all have a thermostat of happiness. I know you've never heard of that. Let me break it down. It said that we all have a thermostat of happiness. That there is a level that we have set in our life that this is the only happiness that I can feel in my life. And once that particular level is exceeded by anything, you unconsciously do everything that you can to bring it back to this particular level. It is similar to the concept that Napoleon Hill teaches in Think and Grow Rich. He says we it's either you have a poverty consciousness or a money consciousness. And he says that each and everyone has got a thermostat for the money that they can hold. And if your thermostat is at if your thermostat is at 10,000, then even if you are going to be given money which exceeds 100,000, 150,000, 1 million kwacha, you are going to do everything you can to reduce it until it comes back to the 10,000. Why? Because this is where your thermostat is. If you don't know what a thermostat is, it is that appliance found in an iron, the one that you use to iron. You find that when it reaches a certain temperature, it's going to switch off until that temperature comes back to the normal. If you set it at 60 degrees Celsius, it's going to make sure that once it surpasses 60 degrees Celsius, the thermostat turns off the iron until that temperature comes back to 60 degrees Celsius. It's the same even with happiness. Now, this term called self-sabotage just means that, let's say you have accumulated a certain level of success, and then you start destroying the things that you have built. Why? Because you do not believe that you deserve those particular things. And it got me thinking, this particular thermostat of happiness that we have, that let's say something good happens to you, there's only a level of happiness that you allow yourself to feel. And once that particular level is exceeded, you tend to do everything that you can do to reduce it until it reaches that particular level. And this got me thinking that it's the reason why a lot of people, no matter how happy they are going to find something to complain about. This is the reason why no matter how good things happen to you, a person is going to find something that they can blame just to feel that particular, so that they can feel comfortable, because happiness is uncomfortable to them. How is the concept of happiness in your life? Because if you are a person who has been used, your mind is conditioned to feel sad in a certain way, you find that everything good that happens to you, you are going to self-sabotage it, which means you are going to destroy that particular thing until you go to your comfortable position, which is sadness. This is actually one of the major causes of why we break up.